everyone, welcome to another session of this online class. So before I proceed to the class, I would like to recall the previously learned concepts by conducting a test and a quick recap. Okay, so here whatever we have learned previously. So to test your knowledge, I have selected few questions, so just go through it. So number one, name the sources for obtaining fibers. So you would have learned in the previous class that we either obtain fibers from plant sources or animal sources. Name some wool yielding animals. Already I have discussed in our previous class. So what are all the animals which yield wool? Okay, so that you can name it. Number third one, in which part of India yak wool is common? So in which part means you have to just mention the location, okay, or which state this yak wool is being grown or it is available in common. Mostly, I think I would have mentioned in the tabular column in our previous video. So you can refer that video and find out the answer for it. So usually the yak is an animal which is grown in Jammu and Kashmir region. And number four, how do the hair of certain animals help in keeping their bodies warm? So this also I discussed in the previous class. The reason behind why the body hair which is present in the animals, what is the actual reason behind the keeping them warm, keeping their bodies warm. And question number five, name the goats which are found in Tibet and Ladakh. Okay, there is a special variety of goat which is there that also I have mentioned in a previous video. So in a particular table or column it will be there. So you can just refer the video and you try to answer all these questions. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to write this test in a separate notebook, in a test notebook, and you just make a note of all the answers. Okay. Make sure when you are writing this, try to analyze on your own. Okay, instead of copying from something, try to at least write whatever you have remembered, okay, in our previous class. So without referring the video also, you can just do whatever you remember so that you can jot it down. Okay, fine. So let's move on to the recap section. Let's do a quick recap of what you have learned. So in the previous class we have learned about wool is obtained from fleece or hair of sheep or yak. So as I already discussed about the preparation of wool, how the wool is manufactured. So it is usually manufactured from the hair of either sheep or yak. Then wool comes from sheep, not only sheep, it comes from goat also, it comes from yak and also some other animals like camels. Okay, then the process of selecting parents for obtaining special characters in their offspring, such as soft underhair in sheep, is termed as selective breeding. So about this selective breeding, I explained why it is essential. The reason being, so most of the woolen material, woolen fabric which we manufacture, it must be soft as well as hard enough, okay, so that it can help us to keep us warm. So that can be obtained only when the animal which is having hair, it should have a soft underhair. Okay, so those animals which are having soft underhair, for them, I mean those type of wools only will be very qualitative enough, or it will be very good enough for us to keep our body warm. So that's the reason why what they do, um, what those people do, what they just do is they used to do selective breeding. They used to pick up only those animals, okay, which has soft underhair, and through them, okay, the offspring which is obtained, through them the a new animal which is a new baby which is obtained, okay, its soft hair will also it will also have the similar characteristics. That's why we undergo selective breeding. So let's move on to the next part of this chapter, that is fiber to fabric. Now in today's learning objective will be, in today's session we are going to learn about the concept of fibers to wool. So the main thing, in our previous class we discussed about how the wool is obtained and from what are all the sources the wool is obtained. Now our main part is, so how we process this fiber, woolen fiber, to make it into wool, fine wool. Okay, so that whole process we are going to learn today. So here you can see in the picture, So somebody is just using some kind of a machine like a trimmer, which we use to trim our hair. Similar machine they are using to rear this wool, right? So to remove the hair from the wool. So let us see how this process is being done. So for obtaining wool, sheep are reared. So rearing is a process where the removal of hair is taken place. So what they do is from the sheep, so the body hair, whatever is present, they will remove it. That is what is called rearing. Okay. So their hair is cut and processed into wool. So that is the main source. That is the main. Mm, that's the main source which is helpful for obtaining or which is helpful to make wool, right? So we need hair. So what they do is they used to cut all the hair from their body, and then few steps are there for the processing of wool. So using that hair only, they are being processed into various steps, and finally we will obtain wool. So let us learn about this process in detail. Now, what is rearing and breeding of sheep? See, if you travel to the hills in Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttaranchal, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, or the plains of Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan, and Gujarat, you can see shepherds taking their herds of sheep for grazing. Similarly, I mean, what is actually grazing? Grazing is nothing but a grassland suitable for pasturage. See, you can see in picture. So he is the shepherd. He is carrying a herd of a sheep, okay, behind him. So where he is taking actually, he is taking to provide them the food. So when he is growing all these sheeps, okay, the main purpose of growing sheep is two things. Okay, if he is growing any goat or sheep, okay, if he's growing goat, one is you can obtain the milk from them and you can sell the milk. That is one. Okay, another main purpose of growing sheep or goat is to do this business, that is by selling the hairs of sheep or goat. But most important thing is they have to keep those goat or sheep healthy. So to keep them healthy, what they have to do, they have to daily take them for grazing. So grazing is like a big park or some place where the majority of grassland, it should be like a grassland. It should have a lot of grasses available, because mainly these sheep or goat, they are actually herbivores. They would love to eat only grass. They would love to eat only plants. So the main purpose, to keep them healthy, to keep them grow. Okay, what he has to do? He has to do grazing. So to do grazing, he will take down the breed of, I mean, he take down a herd of sheep along with him for breeding. First step is grazing. So second, sheep are herbivores. As I told you already, herbivores means those animals which eat only the food which is obtained from plants, and they would love to prefer to eat only grass and leaves. So apart from grazing, rearers also feed them on a mixture of pulses, corn, jowar, and minerals. See, sometimes grazing is okay, suitable, but most of the time grazing cannot be done, especially in rainy season and all. In rainy season, you cannot take the sheep outside and make them, to do grazing, make them to eat food for a longer amount of time, because it will also cause harm to their health. Okay, so during rainy season or monsoon season, when it is being affected with monsoon, at that time what they do is they don't take them outside for grazing. So what they do is they provide pulses, corns, or jawar, and whatever the uh, grain item which is available. Those things they provide. Okay, that is also another method of doing grazing. So instead of feeding them only the plants, they also feed them the foods which is obtained from plants. Okay, so that also they eat. Okay, so this is another method of doing grazing. Okay, fine. Now, after that, what they do is, that's what I told you already, right? In winter, sheep are kept indoors and fed on leaves, grain, and dry fodder. So during winter season, it will be very difficult for them to even take and provide them food or provide them outside grazing, okay, in the park. So what they do is they keep the sheep indoors during winter season or monsoon season, and they feed inside itself by providing leaves, grain, and dry fodder. Now, sheep are reared in many parts of our country for wool. You already know in your previous class also we discussed. So in many states, the sheep's different varieties or different breed of sheep are reared in many parts of our country. As mentioned earlier, the sheep are selectively bred with one parent being a sheep of good breed. So one more thing we need to notice, as I discussed already about selective breeding concept. So what they do is they pick up only those sheep which have got very soft, fine underhair, because that is very essential for you to provide good quality wool. If you have sheep, if you are buying a sheep which does not have good quality or which does not have a soft, fine underhair, then that will not give a good quality wool. It will be like a loss for you. Okay, so what they do is they select only those sheep and they will help them to mate. Okay, so that the next sheep which comes out of their parents, okay, so that sheep will also have the similar characteristics. That particular sheep's hair will also be soft, fine under hair. So that is why selective breeding is very, very important. So once the red sheep have developed a thick growth of hair is shaved off for getting wool. So once the hair grows, okay, it becomes thick. Okay, so when it grows bigger, okay, and it becomes thick, at that time what they do? So they do rearing. So that is they are just shaving off for getting wool. Okay, fine. Now let us understand about all the steps of the process involved from converting the fine fibers into wool. So the wool which is used for knitting sweaters or for weaving shawls is the finished product of a long process which involves the following steps. So first step is shearing. Shearing is nothing but removal of hair. Second, scoring. Third one, sorting. Fourth one, drying. Fifth one, dyeing or coloring. Sixth one, combing. So different process like this which is being shown in the picture is being done to convert these fibers into wool. Okay, so the first step is shearing, where what they do, they remove the hair from the sheep after doing rearing. Rearing means after taking them for after obtaining the proper food and after growing them. Okay, what they do, they do the shearing. So once the hair is grown, okay, hair has become thick, they do shearing, they remove the hair. Second one, scoring. Scoring is they will pick only the fine hair which is available. Third one, sorting. They sort it differently. Okay, so after removing the impurity from the hair during in the scoring process, so then what they do is the long hair and all they will separate, and the short hair and all they will separate. So that is what is happens. That's what happened during sorting process. So after sorting process, they do drying to make them dry. And the fifth step is dyeing. Dyeing is nothing but coloring. So wool fibers, that is woolen cloths, are in different colors, right? So likewise, but the sheep's hair and all will be only in white color, white colored layer texture. So what they do is they do the coloring. They apply different dyes, okay, to make them colorful. And finally, they do combing. Combing is nothing but straightening the hair. Okay, like how we used to comb our hair to make it straight. Same way, they used to convert the fiber into a straight line. Okay, straight thread like structure. Okay, so let us understand about all these 6 steps by observing a video, by watching this video. Okay,
Let us study the process by which wool is obtained from sheep one step at a time. First, the fleece is removed from the body of the sheep. A machine is used for the purpose. The process of removing the fleece of the sheep from its body with the help of a machine is called shearing. Shearing does not hurt the sheep. This is because the uppermost layer of the sheep's skin is dead. Usually, hair is removed during the hot weather. This enables sheep to survive without their protective coat of hair. Then the sheared skin with hair is washed thoroughly in tanks. This exercise is undertaken to remove grease, dust and dirt. This process is called scoring. The washed hairy skin is sent to a factory where hair of different textures are separated or sorted. The small fluffy fibers called burrs are picked out from the hair. Fibers are dyed in various colors as the natural fleece of sheep and goats is black, brown or white. The fibers are straightened and rolled into yarn, and finally the wool is ready to use.
So final process is, as I told you, straightening. Okay, so there they will use to convert them into yarn like a thread. Okay, so after that you can use it for making different woolen cloths. Fine. Now this you have seen in animated form. Now let us understand in actual, okay, in real, how all this process is being done by watching this video. This video is actually copyright of a channel called TVG, okay, but then it will be helpful for you, okay, to take a tour of, okay, so what are the different steps involved in converting the fibers into wool. So
what do wool and hand cream have in common? Well, a sheep's fleece has an oily protective coating, which contains a substance called wool grease. When factories make yarn, they first clean the wool with detergents. The grease is processed into lanolin, a common ingredient in hand creams. Historians believe that people began raising sheep for food and clothing about 10,000 years ago. And around 4000 BC, they started spinning the wool into yarn for weaving fabric. The Romans brought wool production to England in about 50 AD. Woolen fabrics would become the country's chief export for centuries. In 1797, Britain shipped 13 sheep to Australia, starting what would become the largest wool industry in the world today. Wool fabric is durable, wrinkle-proof, and holds its shape well. It absorbs moisture and insulates against heat and cold. That's why wool is ideal for clothing like sweaters and coats. Sheep shearers use power shears, removing the fleece in one piece. They discard any stained or inferior wool and then sort the rest according to the quality of the fibers. This grading is based on length, color, waviness, and fineness. The wool is cleaned with detergents before processing. The wool arrives at the factory in compressed bales. Workers untie them and feed the wool into the opening equipment, whose metal tooth rollers comb out and separate the fibers. From there, the fibers go into the blending room, where air currents mix different grades of wool to get the desired texture. If they'll be weaving a wool blend, they mix the wool fibers with other materials such as polyester fibers. A thorough blending takes about an hour. An air pipe transports the blended fibers to the next station. On the way, sprayers lubricate them with a mineral oil mixture to make processing easier. The fibers arrive at the carding machine, where they pass through a series of rollers with thin wire teeth. This untangles the fibers and lines them up parallel to each other. This process also removes any pieces of debris caught in the fibers. The carding process produces a smooth, flat sheet called a web. The equipment divides this web into thin, flat strips. These strips go through rub aprons, two rollers that twirl them into thinner, rounded strips called rovings. The rovings wind onto a spool. Rovings look like yarn, but if you pull on them, they simply tear. They haven't been spun, so they have no strength. Each roving goes into a device called a spinning frame. It stretches the roving and spins it tightly, producing wool yarn. The yarn winds onto a bobbin. Spinning gives the yarn strength. Now they can weave it into wool fabric. A fully automated loom does it all. Watch in slow motion as it inserts one strand at a time, crosswise, through stationary lengthwise strands. It's computer programmed to thread in a specific under-over configuration, according to the type of weave. The loom inserts 400 strands per minute. After weaving, they burn off vegetal matter, such as straw fragments. Then they dye and dry the fabric. All wool fabrics undergo finishing to give them a particular appearance and feel. These spiked rollers created a plush finish. Wool fabrics can also have a sheared or flat finish.
So you might have witnessed now, you have taken to a tour of the processing of fibers, woolen fibers into wool. So all the 6 processes which we have discussed, you might have seen. So all these are automated process by using with the help of machines, they convert these fibers into wool. Then one more thing which you need to understand, there is a danger also there, those who work in woolen factories. Okay, especially those who are doing a sharing process. Okay, for them there is a occupational hazard is there. So wool industry is an important means of livelihood for many people in our country. But sorter's job is risky, as sometimes they get infected by a bacterium, anthrax, which causes a fatal blood disease called sorter's disease. So as I told you, there is a step called sorting step where they remove any unwanted things, and also by using different textures of wool they used to separate it, right? But during this process, you know that wool is an animal which go everywhere, okay, for grazing and all, we take them outside. So there are chances that that particular animal would have get infected with some bacteria, and that would have been stinged into their hairs and all. Now during this process, there are chances that there is a bacteria or anything, if it is present, it may spread from that particular hair. Okay, so such risks are faced by workers in any industry are called occupational hazard. So not only in this industry, in many industries, people face a lot of these hazards. So such type of hazard we call it as occupational hazard. So in this industry, in the woolen industry, they face this type of hazard that is called sorter's disease. Okay. Now let's do a quick recap of what we have learned today. So today we have learned that for obtaining wool, sheep must be reared. First a sheep must be grown. Their hair has to be cut and processed into wool. And the wool which is used for knitting sweaters or for weaving shawls is the finished product of a long process which involves how many steps total? 6 steps. And sorter's job is risky as sometimes they get infected by a bacteria called anthrax, which causes a fatal blood disease, and that disease is called sorter's disease. Okay, now there is a quick assessment for you to understand how much you have learned today. So first one, sorter's disease is an occupational hazard. Explain. So why sorter's disease is called as an occupational hazard? You need to give a quick explanation. Second one, write the various steps involved to obtain wool from fleece. So you have seen just now all the 6 steps you need to write. Next, there is a home fun for you. So here, do you know that an animal called Visuna also gives wool? Can you tell me where that animal is found? Look for this in a dictionary or an encyclopedia. Okay, so find out information about this animal and tell me in which part of this country this animal is found. Okay, so with this I'll wind up today's session. So till we meet next time, take care children and have a good day. Okay, bye bye.